London News in front. Privilege won't give in. London News doing the better, and London News, he's everything they said, and he wins.
For the purposes of this interview, I'm standing behind GLYN and Chad because I'm actually a hell of a lot fatter than both of them, which is obvious. But we're going to chat first of all to the younger partner, because he's resident in Hong Kong. He's got 6 rides on Sunday in the Queen Elizabeth Cup Day, and let's cut miraculously to Chad Schofield, after which we'll chat to GLYN. Well, Chad, inadvertently got you and your dad walking across the track, obviously having a look at the beautiful surface here at Sharton, one of the finest race tracks in the world.
Yeah, the track looks lovely for the big days racing on the weekend. The rail's back to the true position, and it's going to be, it's a great card, and this looks like it's going to be a great day.
You got 6 rides on the day, and obviously South African fans are huge fans of Hong Kong racing because of the South African connection. And which direction can you point us in?
On the undercard, there's a Group 3 mile and a half race called the Queen Mother Memorial. I'm riding a really nice young horse called Denozo. He's drawn well, he's well handicapped, he's going to carry a lightweight, so he stays well, and I think he'll be hard to beat.
Lots of countries in the world can take a huge leaf out of Hong Kong in terms of their slick organisation. I mean, there are not a lot of people over here, but the organisation for these presentation of the horses on the track is sparkling, and everybody knows how transparent Hong Kong is.
Yeah, that's right. It's top class here. Everything they do, it's to the utmost. It's the best they can possibly do it. They put the breakfast on here for the international horses, and it's just a great week. As long as International Week in December, it's just great to get amongst it, and it's a special time.
We were chatting off camera. You told us that you've had a couple of suspensions, mainly due to the fact that you obviously try very hard, and the way that the stipendiary stewards behaviour over here is to keep the game as clean as possible.
Yes, the racing here is very clean, and arguably the best in the world. So for that reason, the stewards make sure it's security very well. But I've had a nice season. I've had 20 winners. I've missed a large portion due to suspension, like you mentioned. But my strike rate's still pretty good, and I'm getting good support. So there's not long now to the end of the season, but I think next season and onwards, I can really start to build a good profile here in Hong Kong.
Obviously, Joe Moreira would appear to be the boss, if not in Hong Kong, all over the world. I mean, he's one of the finest riders we'll ever see, but you still get a couple of good bones over here?
Well, Joe Moreira's scraps are still pretty good. He's got a real stranglehold on all the rides here. He picks and chooses what he wants, and rightly so. He's a brilliant jockey, but there's plenty of winners to go around, and there's 10 races on every weekend, so they're there to be found.
So even if you don't have a winner on Sunday, which we hope is not going to be the case, it's still a decent riding fee and still good prize money.
Yeah, of course, the prize money is phenomenal, and there's 8 races every Wednesday and 10 on the weekend. So although there's around 24 jockeys here, there's 18 a week, so it is quite tricky. But once you get into the swing of things and you get some nice support, it sort of flows on from there.
Well, it would have been remiss of me not to throw in the fact that this particular race has gone to one GLYN Schofield and a horse called River Dancer. Fond memories for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a great race to win. One of Hong Kong's showcase races, of course. World stage, big prize money, top horses. So the big races are the ones, as jockeys, we all want to win, and those are the ones you strive to win. So to win one of these is pretty good.
So going into the race, had the horse been specifically set up for that particular race, or did it just map out that way?
Well, of course, he was a local horse that was performing, at the top end here, and he wasn't a fancied runner, but by the market. But John Sires and myself fancied him pretty strongly because he'd put in some really strong performances leading in. I think he ran 4th in a Group 1 leading up behind the champion mare in Hong Kong at the time. So, yeah, he had good form going into it, but he was a bit of a surprise winner for some, but was certainly a nice surprise to have.
But the thing about Hong Kong is amazing because there is so much form to follow. It is so transparent. If you miss out on something, it's because you're not looking.
Well, that's exactly what you say. You just get on the website, you click on something, and all the information's there. You can download track work, you can download the sectional times that they run, you can download the videos. Obviously, As we spoke earlier, it's the highest end of racing, and there's, if you want to look for something, you can find it.
Hong Kong, of course, is a very, very tight handicap system. So 97% of our races, top to bottom, 20 pounds spread in almost every race, 133 down to 113. It could be 30 if you have a 10-pound claimer on board. It is technically possible to go that deep. And it yields some very competitive racing. I'm going to get the statistic a little bit wrong, which is not something I normally do because I'm just going off of memory here, but I believe it was something to the point of about 65% of our races are decided by less than half a length. And it might be about 40% are decided by a neck or less. Very tight system here, and it yields some very competitive punting. Day in and day out, I mean, we do $2 million a year here in Hong Kong through the gates just on race day. Day in and day out, I mean, we do $2 million a year here in Hong Kong through the gates just on race day. So that means on average, and it's obviously a little inflated by some of the big days, but 24,000 per meeting on course. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, when you said 2 million, I'm thinking to myself, you probably do $2 million a second in this place.
It's a lot. 127 million Hong Kong per race. So that's a lot in any currency. Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid that I have to be a little bit parochial in my angle over here because I just discovered that I missed somebody out of my calculations. We were thinking about London News, about Mike de Kock, we're thinking about Tony Millard. We forgot about GLYN Schofield to add to Wai Shong Mawing and Douglas White and Anthony Delpeche. South Africa's left its mark on this race.
Oh, not just this race, Hong Kong in general, but absolutely. Look, you go to what sticks out of my mind. It was actually the first year I was in Dubai when Vengeance of Rain won the Shima Classic, but obviously really got a lot of his grounding here in the Derby and then in the QE2, and that was really 2 full years before his Dubai success. So I was really introduced to David Ferraris, and it was really my first foray direct into South African racing, and that's 11 years ago now. So Vengeance of Rain to me, kind of, it's funny, bridges South Africa, Hong Kong, Australia, where he was originally purchased out of, and you could say in some way it's, he's the first of those really, really international types who's really kind of spanned the globe.
Whoever wins this race, they're not going to look out of place anyway on the Roll of Honour because there's some very nice horses going around. I think, all things considered, you've got a horse like Dicton from France. He's placed in 2 French classics, and behind Al Manzour, who's arguably one of his best turf horse in Europe, and is up there as one of the best in the world. So there's nothing wrong with the form in terms of the horses here. And as far as Hong Kong's concerned, Werther's the defending champion and the heavyweight champ as well. He's the one definitely to beat.
It's sad. Very disappointing for the Hong Kong Jockey Club with the fare that they put on, the money they're putting on, to just have 8 runners in this glorious race.
It is a shame, and honestly I can't put my finger on what that boils down to. I think possibly that you've got the UK season just kicking off. Their horses aren't in the prime of fitness, and they don't want to jeopardise a trip over here and ruin whatever chance they have of winning a Group 1 on home soil. And the Australians' season is pretty much, they've come to the end of their campaigns and they've got a lot of tired horses now preparing for the spring. So,
well, it was quite thin in Dubai as well, in the turf. It was a very thin race.
Very, very thin races. And even some of Hong Kong horses didn't go for that pure reason. They wanted to stay back for the QE2 and the Sprint Cup early next month. So I think there's a lot of fingers going to be pointed. We might see a change of date. In the future, which might be a sign of madness. It wouldn't be a sign of madness at all. But we've never had such a small field, and I'm sure if anyone's going to do their homework, it's the Hong Kong Jockey Club, and they'll sort out some way, somehow they'll find a reason, and I don't think it'll be happening again.
London News in front, Privilege won't give in. London News doing the better, and London News, he's everything they said, and he